Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to say no? In a world where the expectations of others often feel heavier than our own desires, the ability to refuse can become a true challenge. Eudoras of Alexandria, a Stoic philosopher, teaches us that true freedom begins when we learn to set our own boundaries. Stoic philosophy offers us powerful tools to deal with this issue, allowing us to cultivate a life that is more authentic and aligned with our values. In this video, we will explore how Stoicism can be an essential guide to help you say no in an assertive and calm manner. The ability to decline invitations, demands, or obligations that do not resonate with our inner selves is fundamental to maintaining our serenity and focus. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control what others think or feel, but we can control our reactions and decisions. This idea is liberating and allows us to live more authentically. Over the next few minutes, you will discover how the Stoic principles of rationality and reflection can transform the way you relate to external expectations. We will discuss the importance of understanding our personal priorities and values, and how this empowers us to make decisions that respect our time and energy. By learning to say no, we are not only avoiding unwanted commitments, but also affirming what truly matters to us. You will see that this practice is not just about refusal, but about establishing a deeper connection with who we are. Stoicism teaches us to value virtue and integrity, and this is reflected in how we position ourselves in the face of the world's demands. Instead of feeling guilty for saying no, we can view it as an act of self-knowledge and self-love. Get ready to explore practical examples and reflections that will help you apply these concepts in your daily life. By the end of this video, you will feel more confident in facing external pressures and will know that by saying no, you are, in fact, saying yes to your true essence. So, let's embark on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment together, where Stoicism becomes a light that illuminates the path to a more balanced and authentic life. Stoicism, a philosophy that originated in ancient Greece, brings valuable teachings that resonate to this day. Founded by Zeno of Citium in the early 3rd century BC, Stoicism spread throughout the Roman world through prominent figures such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. Each of them, with their experiences and insights, shaped the way we understand this philosophy. Seneca, a statesman and playwright, emphasized the importance of reason and virtue, encouraging people to live according to their principles, regardless of external circumstances. Epictetus, a former slave, brought a practical approach to Stoicism, highlighting the idea that control over our reactions and thoughts is what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, bequeathed us his reflections in Meditations, where he articulated the need to accept what we cannot change and focus on what is within our reach. In the modern world, the relevance of Stoicism becomes even more evident. We live in an era filled with uncertainties, challenges, and constant pressures. The quest for validation on social media, the pressure to meet others' expectations, and the anxiety about the future are issues that many face daily. In this context, Stoic principles offer a practical guide to navigate life's difficulties. Stoicism teaches us to cultivate resilience in the face of adversity, to accept the impermanence of things, and to maintain focus on our own behavior and attitudes instead of being swayed by external factors. One of the central concepts of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, which helps us discern between what is within our control and what is not. This distinction is crucial, especially when it comes to learning to say no. Often we feel pressured to please others or take on responsibilities we do not want. Here, the dichotomy of control teaches us to concentrate our efforts on what we can change, our own decisions and reactions. By accepting that we cannot control how others respond to us, we can act with more clarity and assertiveness. This allows us to set healthy boundaries and prioritize our well-being. Moreover, the practice of self-reflection, an important characteristic of Stoicism, is a powerful tool for helping us say no. By reflecting on our values and goals, we become more aware of what truly matters to us. This clarity enables us to act in accordance with our principles, rather than being swayed by external pressure. When we know what we want and what is important, to us it becomes easier to refuse commitments that do not align with our personal goals and values. The importance of virtue in Stoic philosophy cannot be underestimated. By cultivating virtues such as courage, wisdom, and temperance, we become more capable of facing difficulties with dignity and grace. Saying no can be an expression of courage, a demonstration that we value our time and energy. Instead of simply accepting everything that is offered to us, virtue guides us to seek what is best for ourselves and those around us. Therefore, as we look at Stoicism and its lessons, we find a practical and effective way to face the challenges of modern life. What often seems like an internal struggle to set boundaries can be transformed into an opportunity to apply Stoic principles. Learning to say no is not just about refusing something, but about affirming our commitment to our own values and the pursuit of the life we wish to live. As we face the demands of everyday life, we can remember that serenity and balance are the results of our conscious choices. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control the reactions of others, we can always choose how to respond. This choice is an expression of our freedom and autonomy. By internalizing these principles, we become more capable of navigating the complexities of life with a sense of purpose and clarity. In short, Stoicism offers us a powerful set of tools to deal with the uncertainties of the modern world. Through understanding concepts like the dichotomy of control and the practice of virtue, we can develop the ability to say no assertively and consciously. And so, by embracing this timeless philosophy, we find not only a foundation to face difficulties, but also the freedom to live a life aligned with our deepest values. By applying these teachings, we become not only more resilient, but also more authentic in our journey. Stoicism, a school of philosophy that flourished in Greece and Rome, offers us valuable lessons on how to cope with life's difficulties. One of the central concepts of Stoicism is the importance of virtue and wisdom. For Stoic philosophers, living according to virtue is the path to true happiness and tranquility. Virtue, in this context, refers to qualities such as justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom. These qualities are seen as fundamental to a well-lived life and to the ability to face the challenges that arise in our path. When we talk about how to cultivate virtue and wisdom, it is essential to consider what this means in practical, everyday situations. For example, imagine a common scenario, the workplace. We are often confronted with tight deadlines, pressures to deliver results, and even conflicts with colleagues. In those moments, the practice of virtue becomes crucial. Wisdom allows us to discern what is truly important and how we should act in the face of adversity. By applying the virtue of temperance, for example, we can maintain calm and not be swept away by anxiety, even when stress rises. This not only helps us make more rational decisions, but can also inspire those around us to maintain their composure. Another practical example can be found in personal conflicts. In relationships, it is common to face misunderstandings and disagreements. The virtue of justice invites us to consider the other person's perspective before we react. Instead of impulsively responding to an offense, we can choose the wisdom of listening and understanding the other person's point of view, which can lead to a more peaceful and constructive resolution. This approach not only improves our relationships, but also strengthens us internally, as we are acting according to ethical principles rather than our momentary emotions. Reflecting on this, it is interesting to note how Stoic philosophers, such as Seneca and Epictetus, emphasize the practice of virtues as a path to inner freedom. They believe that by focusing on what we can control, our actions, reactions, and decisions, and by cultivating virtue in our lives, we can achieve lasting peace. Seneca, for example, said that it is not what happens to you, but how you react to what happens to you that matters. This quote perfectly encapsulates the essence of Stoicism. Instead of being carried away by external circumstances, we are invited to look within and find strength in the virtue we cultivate. Today, this Stoic practice remains relevant. In a world that often pushes us towards reactivity and stress, virtue and wisdom offer us a path of resilience. As we face challenges, we can remember that true strength does not come from the absence of adversity, but from our ability to respond to it with equanimity and discernment. When we cultivate these qualities, we not only improve our own lives, but also positively influence those around us. In summary, the importance of virtue and wisdom in Stoic understanding is an invitation to live more consciously and intentionally. As we face the adversities of everyday life, the practice of virtue helps us stay focused on what truly matters and build a life that resonates with the values we consider essential. Ultimately, by saying no to impulsive reactions and negativity, we are saying yes to a life guided by virtue and wisdom, a step further towards a fuller and more meaningful existence. Stoicism, a philosophical school that flourished in ancient Greece and Rome, offers a series of valuable tools that can help us deal with the challenges of contemporary life. One of the central concepts of Stoicism is the practice of emotional detachment. This idea may seem simple, but its impact on our lives is profound and transformative. By emotionally detaching ourselves, we learn to see situations more clearly and rationally, allowing us to make more accurate and balanced decisions. Imagine facing a lost situation, such as being fired from a job or ending a relationship. The first reaction of many is intense emotional pain, which can lead us to act impulsively and harmfully. However, by practicing emotional detachment, we can distance ourselves from immediate pain and reflect on what really matters. Detachment does not mean we do not care about people or things, but rather that we recognize that our happiness should not depend on them. By accepting the transience of life and the inevitability of change, we can maintain calm and focus, even in the face of disappointments. A practical example of this can be seen in how we deal with rejection. When someone does not accept or criticizes us, the pain can be intense. However, by letting go of the outcome of others' acceptance, we can see the situation in a new light. We can reflect on what we can learn from the experience, instead of being troubled by what we lost. This shift in perspective is one of the keys to maintaining serenity in difficult times. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, practiced detachment as a way to maintain emotional balance. In his meditations, he often reflected on the transient nature of life and the importance of not clinging to the results of actions. For him, true freedom and inner peace came from the ability to accept what we cannot control and focus on what is within our reach. This practice of detachment allowed him to face adversities with dignity and clarity of thought. When we talk about emotional detachment, it is essential to remember that this concept does not imply indifference. On the contrary, it involves a deep understanding and acceptance of emotions. It is natural to feel sadness, anger, or frustration in the face of difficult situations. However, Stoicism teaches us not to be dominated by these emotions. Instead, we can acknowledge them, accept them, and then choose how to respond to them. This allows us to act with more awareness and intentionality. Another practical example is how we handle expectations. Often we create expectations regarding people, events, or outcomes, and when these expectations are not met, the disappointment can be overwhelming. Emotional detachment helps us recognize these expectations and release the control we have over them. This does not mean we should not have goals or desires, but rather that we should be prepared to accept that not everything will go as planned. This flexibility is one of the most important characteristics of Stoicism, as it allows us to navigate the uncertainties of life with more grace and resilience. As the Stoics teach us, life is full of ups and downs. Accepting this reality is a fundamental step toward achieving inner peace. Marcus Aurelius, for example, wrote about the importance of remembering that everyone faces challenges and difficulties. He invites us to put ourselves in others' shoes, recognizing that each person is fighting their own battle. This empathy helps us detach from our own frustrations and connect with the shared humanity of all. Moreover, emotional detachment also allows us to develop a greater capacity for adaptation. When we cling to specific outcomes, we may feel powerless and discouraged when things do not go as expected. However, by practicing detachment, we become more flexible and open to new possibilities. We can find opportunities in situations that once seemed disastrous. This ability to adapt is essential in a constantly changing world. The practice of detachment is also closely linked to gratitude. When we detach from what we cannot control, we begin to value more what we truly have. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we focus on what is positive and meaningful in our lives. This shift in focus can bring a new perspective, helping us cultivate a sense of contentment and satisfaction regardless of external circumstances. It is interesting to note that emotional detachment is not something that is achieved overnight. It is a continuous practice that requires patience and self-compassion. Over time, as we become more aware of our thoughts and emotions, we begin to recognize the patterns of attachment that keep us stuck. This recognition is the first step toward transformation. The practice of detachment teaches us to create space for what truly matters, allowing us to live more fully and authentically. In difficult situations, such as the loss of a loved one, emotional detachment can be a significant challenge. Pain is inevitable and must be felt. However, Stoicism teaches us that even in pain, we can find meaning and purpose. We can honor the memory of those we have lost, but we can also learn to move forward, understanding that life goes on. This perspective helps us find a balance between sorrow and the celebration of life. In summary, emotional detachment is a powerful practice that can help us maintain calm and clarity amid difficulties. By letting go of expectations and outcomes, we learn to live with more authenticity and gratitude. This does not mean we stop feeling, but rather that we choose how to respond to our emotions. By integrating this practice into our lives, we can become more resilient and capable of facing any challenge that life presents to us. Stoicism offers us not only the tools to deal with adversity, but also the wisdom to live with purpose and meaning. Stoicism teaches us that living in accordance with nature is one of the fundamental principles for achieving a full and meaningful life. But what exactly does that mean? For the Stoic philosophers, living in harmony with nature implies recognizing and accepting the order of the universe. This involves understanding our place in this vast system and acting according to reason, which is one of the distinctive characteristics of human nature. When we speak of living in accordance with nature, we refer to the ability to act rationally and virtuously, aligning our actions with the universal principles that govern life. One of the great Stoic thinkers, Eudoras of Alexandria, emphasized the importance of accepting what we cannot control, and this directly relates to the concept of living in accordance with nature. What we cannot change should be accepted with serenity, while what is within our reach should be done with integrity. This acceptance is not a sign of weakness, but rather a demonstration of inner strength and understanding of what truly matters. By living in harmony with nature, we recognize that each of us has a role to play in the grand theater of life. Imagine yourself as an actor in a play, where each of us represents a unique role. When we accept our role, we set aside the resistance and struggle against circumstances beyond our control. This does not mean we should passively conform to everything that happens, but rather that we should act with wisdom and discernment, choosing our battles and investing our energy in what truly makes a difference. In practice, living in accordance with nature can manifest in various ways. For example, when making decisions, we can ask ourselves if our actions are consistent with our values and virtues. This helps us say no to external demands that do not align with who we are or what we believe. When we are aware of our purpose and true nature, it becomes easier to resist pressures that pull us away from our path. A practical example of this can be found in everyday situations, such as when we are pressured to accept compromises that do not bring us satisfaction or that go against our principles. When faced with these situations, we can reflect on the essence of living in accordance with nature. By recognizing that we have the right to refuse what is not beneficial to us, we are exercising the virtue of integrity. This stance not only strengthens us, but also allows us to create a space where we can be authentic. Eudorus of Alexandria, like other Stoics, reminds us that inner peace is achieved when we act in accordance with our rational nature. When we say no, we do so not only as a rejection, but as an affirmation of our commitment to the values we consider important. As Seneca said, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. This quote prompts us to reflect on the courage to stand firm in our convictions. Stoic reflection invites us to consider the relationship between living in accordance with nature and finding inner peace. Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic, highlighted that you have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this and you will find strength. This thought encourages us to focus on what we can truly control, which is our mind and our reactions. By saying no to external influences that do not resonate with our true essence, we are, in fact, exercising our personal power. As we delve into Stoic teachings, it is essential to remember that the practice of virtue is a continuous path. It is not a destination to be reached, but a journey in which we are always learning and growing. Each time we make a choice that aligns with our true nature, we are reinforcing a solid foundation for our lives. This foundation enables us to withstand the storms that will inevitably arise along the way. Living in accordance with nature also requires constant reflection on our actions and intentions. It is an invitation to look inward and assess whether we are living according to the principles we value. When we do this, we become more aware of external pressures that try to shape our decisions and pull us away from our true essence. The practice of Stoicism teaches us to cultivate a clear and focused mind, which helps us discern what is truly important in our lives. Ultimately, living in accordance with nature is an act of courage and authenticity. By saying no to what does not serve our purpose, we are, in fact, affirming our identity and our mission in this world. Through this practice, we find the inner peace we seek. As we know we are being true to ourselves and our values, Stoicism offers us valuable tools to navigate this journey, and by applying them, we can discover a more authentic and meaningful path. Therefore, as we face the choices life presents us, let us always remember the words of the Stoics. May we live in accordance with our true nature, accepting what we cannot control, and acting with integrity in all that we do. This is the key to a fulfilling life, full of meaning and tranquility. May each no we pronounce become an affirmation of who we are and what we value, guiding us always towards a life more aligned with our essence. Stoicism teaches us that saying no is an act of self-control and value for our lives. Throughout this video, we explore how the philosophy of Eudorus of Alexandria provides us with tools to resist external pressures and remain true to our principles. One of the main Stoic concepts is the idea that we cannot control what happens around us, but we can control our reactions. When we understand this, it becomes easier to say no to invitations, commitments, or expectations that are not aligned with our values. Applying these teachings in everyday life is essential. When a request arises that does not resonate with what we believe, remember that it is entirely acceptable to refuse. This practice not only strengthens our integrity, but also allows us to dedicate time and energy to what truly matters. Use the technique of Stoic reflection. Ask yourself if what is being requested is worth it in terms of your personal goals and values. This analysis can help you make better decisions and feel more confident in your choices. Now it's time to act. Start applying these Stoic principles in your daily life. When someone asks you for something that doesn't align with your priorities, practice the art of saying no firmly and respectfully. Don't be afraid to stand your ground. Additionally, we want to hear from you. Share your experiences in the comments and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any updates. If this content was helpful, consider sharing it with friends and family who may also benefit from these teachings. In the end, remember the words of the philosopher Seneca: life is long enough for those who know how to use it. May you choose wisely how to spend your time and energy. Saying no can be the first step toward a more authentic and fulfilling life. If this message resonated with you, like, comment, and share with those who also deserve this reflection. Subscribe to the channel and continue with us on this journey of wisdom and growth. Until the next video.